I'd first like to second the notion that we'd all like to see the Stig take the Jewel out for a ride. That would be great. I'm from the States. I work with a company called Ushahidi on a project called Swift River, which I'll talk about in a second. First, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a background on myself. I started a company in 2008 called Africa in Uganda. I moved there with my wife. Then my girlfriend became my wife fairly recently. And the goal of Africa was to build capacity in East Africa to do sort of high technology work. There's sort of a skills gap. People go to school, they're well trained relatively to the region. And they come out, there's not very many jobs. So the goal of Africa was to sort of close that gap. And that's gone quite well. That's sort of how I got to know the Ushahidi guys. They wanted someone who had dealt with African entrepreneurs before, but who was also a technologist. Africa sort of evolved to include Hive Collab, which is sort of an incubation space in Uganda. These are some of the guys that we work with there. And it's all come along. So that's just my own background, sort of my connection to Africa. And then last year, or the year before last, in 2009, I began working on the Swift River project, which is all about adding context to real-time data. How can we make the process of mining and processing information more efficient and more open for organizations who have big data problems? We're not so much focused on some of the issues that the rest of the Ushahidi organization is focused on. We're very much focused on data problems and adding context, adding veracity, those sorts of things. How do you make sure that the people you're listening to while crowdsourcing are in fact not trying to game systems, and lots of network theory and that sort of stuff. So our website, swiftly.org, we're relaunching soon. We've had a pretty good run so far. In the last couple of months, there's been 7,000 downloads of our open source applications. And I should also mention we have a dual model. We have APIs that sit in the cloud. Those are also open source, so you can take them and run them locally. You can build on top of them. And then we also have applications which make all this stuff easy to use. And this is sort of what that looks like from a high level. But what I wanted to talk about today was just sort of this concept of social capital and social currency, which is all about relationships and how people in digital systems interact with each other, and how you essentially know who to listen to when crowdsourcing information. Crowdsourcing has become this immensely efficient way to get lots of work done by lots of people in a very short amount of time. But that comes with some costs. One is in the vetting of who's participating and knowing who to give your time to. I'm going to steal a bottle of water here, sorry. So this is Chennai, India. It's a marketplace. It's a marketplace in Chennai. I was talking with a friend recently about this particular image, and he was curious as to what, this is, to an outsider, this looks incredibly chaotic. My friend, he's Indian, he was visiting, and he was looking at this scene and knowing just how much it wasn't chaotic, and knowing just what was going on. And he started thinking about sort of like what makes a scene like this work. How do people come together? How are people very loosely associated and immensely connected in ways that make this whole process just work every day, day in and day out. It happens all over the world, not just India, also many parts of Africa, many parts of Latin America. Even in the States, we still have markets on the weekends and so on. And essentially what we decided is that all social networks are sort of a marketplace. They sort of reflect that image. There's lots of people, there's a lot going on, You don't quite know what the connections are, but we know that they're there. And we came up with this phrase, trade at work. This is, people are trading something, we're just not quite sure what it is. So again, this marketplace is a place where immense interaction happens. We just lack the context to understand what those interactions are on a fine level, on a micro level. We can just sort of see the macro level of how chaotic it looks. So this got me to, this led me down this path of thinking about the mechanics of all relationships and what those look like online, not just in crowds, not just in crowdsourcing models, but also social networks like Facebook, Twitter. Why do you retweet someone who, if the internet was working, sorry, I would have retweeted the Stig quote because I thought it was funny, but why would I do that? And that's sort of what the type of things that we think about. The why, and what makes crowdsourcing work. I mean, essentially the entire internet is crowdsourcing. We've got everybody online. We've got about 1.7 billion people online, and we're trying to get the rest online. And people are participating, sharing ideas. Entrepreneurs are sharing their thoughts on business. Businesses are using that to share with you. What makes all that work? Why do people do it? And it's fundamentally all about connections. Now, it may also be about money. Some people are motivated by monetary incentive, but not everyone is. Not all crowdsourcing models pay people in return for their work. Wikipedia, for instance. People participate in Wikipedia, they edit, they become very adamant about changing the date that someone was born or died, or even what they said last week. And that fundamentally isn't motivated by money. It's motivated by other factors. So when it's not about money, what is it about? And at Ushahidi, the company's become very well known for producing a platform where people participate in sharing information about disaster scenarios, community activist movements, election monitoring, citizen journalism, and so on. But why are they participating? What do they get out of it? And what do we get out of it? What do the people who work with us get out of it? And what are our clients paying for? So this isn't unique to Ushahidi. It's also very common within Facebook. People participate, people like things, people share on Facebook as well. Twitter, MySpace, not so much MySpace. Got to get that jab in there. But what it all comes down to is currency. If all social environments reflect a marketplace, then something's being exchanged, and whatever that exchange is what I would call currency. Currency is a mechanism for exchanging value, and in that regard, all social relationships sort of represent currency. And then also we have to also think about concurrency, which is all about interconnected, simultaneous action that sort of happens with and around each other. And the idea of quid pro quo. So people are giving something, but what are they getting? What does that all boil down to? And I fundamentally think that this all comes back to sort of an older way of doing things, where or in many parts of the world, the current way of doing things, that sort of Western markets have fundamentally sort of moved beyond, but may in fact be coming back to. And that's essentially bartering. Essentially, I may come work for you, and you pay me something, and then I go somewhere else. I may find that what you have paid me to do that work is twice as much as what someone else would pay me to do the same work somewhere else. And in that case, I've sort of shifted value from one place. I did something for you, and I've come over here, and it's worth twice as much to someone else. And now I've essentially doubled my income just by changing locations. So it's sort of moving value from one place to another in an abstract manner that may or may not be connected to coinage or physical currency representations. So ultimately, money is an abstraction. It's a way to take value from one place and move it to another. We also can do this in social networks. If I produce so I make lots of infographics. If I make lots of infographics, give them away for free, people sort of come to know me as the person who produces, good or moderately good infographics. Someone else becomes a very reputable editor on Wikipedia, and Wikipedians see that person as someone who knows what they're talking about or, on this particular subject, this particular context. So again, it's quid pro quo, exchanging something for something else. Something of value is being exchanged, whether it's knowledge or whether it's reputation, whether it's something more abstract. So looking at the Ushahidi platform, because it's something I work with every day, where's the value here? It's not the technology. So people often look at Ushahidi and they're like, oh, it's maps and Google Maps is out there. Why do people use this thing? It's really not about the technology. It's not even necessarily about the openness. It's about the value that this particular platform, in my opinion, is offering back to the people who are using it. So in this case, we have people who are the victims. Don't really like that word, but for lack of a better term, the victims of an event, the people who are experiencing it, they sort of use this platform and they get something back. They're putting their dots on a map. It helps to georeference things for their own context. So they can then see what's going on around them. They can avoid a specific area where there might be a fire, there might be something going on that's dangerous. They can see those things. That's the value they get out of it. The volunteers, they use it because they want to help the victims. So they're producing the platform, they're putting this up, and they're also using the platform for their own reference. News producers, they want to know about current events, what's going on in real time. That's the value they get out of it. First responders, they get a lot of value. They can see sort of what's going on on a macro scale and then use that to make better decisions. And the news consumers obviously care because this is just an extension of news. But where I think the interesting thing here is in these sort of like little bubbles that are like around or in between the bigger boxes. And these bubbles are what I call multipliers. They strengthen these ties between these entities. And I think that, that they're sort of feedback loops. So activists use this platform, they help victims, they want volunteers. That's sort of like a self-reinforcing loop. Funders and donors, same thing. They want publicity. They also want people to fund. I mean, that's their role. Advertisers, obviously, there's a monetary exchange going on there, and so on. And I think we can this is just one abstraction of the Ushahidi platform. We can sort of break down pretty much every relationship to sort of look like this, like the people who are drawing value and the multipliers who are improving that value or reinforcing that value. The online space presents a very unique opportunity to sort of represent this quantitatively. This is a platform called Freebase. There's others, the Facebook like button, retweeting, Google +1, which just came about, and then quite a few others. So what does this all mean to business, and why do I feel this is important to, particularly in the African context? I fundamentally think that this is all boils down to something that's very natural for many developing parts of the world, which is just natural social interaction. As people come online with mobile devices, they're actually more connected than the rest of the world. They've always got that device on them. We haven't quite tapped or leveraged that opportunity yet anywhere. I mean, Twitter's probably the closest, and there's some new things like GroupMe coming around. These particular sites are all looking at reputation and how that all sort of interacts, but they're mostly doing it to sell things. Swift River is all about using these things to sort of add context to data on people's own terms. Again, it's an open source platform, so people sort of set this up, and then they curate the data that they want, and then apply this sort of logic to it. I like to think of all of this sort of like this participation and collaboration as sort of what goes on a football field, or as I would say, soccer. If you think of the crowd as like a team, and you've got all the individuals on that team who all have that same primary goal, achieve some objective, which in football is win the game. Those players don't always do the exact same things on the field. They don't always follow the exact plays of their coaches. They sort of have to figure this out intuitively as they're working together. So this is one way that collaboration looks. This is another. And it's in that interconnected action. I didn't really talk about that much, but if you look at that soccer field, people are doing things in unison, together, in harmony and dissonance. They're sort of overlapping. People are thinking on behalf of the team. They're trying to outthink each other. They're trying to help each other. That's concurrency. It's things that are occurring because of each other and also simultaneously. And then also the idea of the collective and people doing this sort of innately, intuitively together, as opposed to only intuitively as individuals. And I think that when you look at, for instance, a village where people may still be bartering or may place less value on monetary objects or coinage currency, I think you start to see that there are other types of relationships that we can explore. We can sort of abstract those to new business models, especially as people become more connected, and we can actually sort of see those and highlight those relationships. And it's sort of the idea of the exchange economy, or there's a new phrase that's sort of floating around, actually just saw it right before I came on stage, called the civic economy, where things are more, the values placed more on relationships than on the monetary value that people produce. And that can look very interesting in a lot of different ways. But fundamentally, it can improve the way that we all work together online, whether it's here, whether it's in communities like Wikipedia, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, Ushahidi. You can start to produce things that produce immense value that may not be related to coinage, that you can monetize. I mean, if you are interested as a marketer to leverage this, that can be done. The great site that you guys just launched, people are participating, they're creating value that then becomes something that, whether indirectly or directly, Old Mutual monetizes. And I think this is sort of the nature of participation online and where things are going. Thanks.